Okay, I'm listening. I'm waiting patiently.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our fifth installment of the Kuzari with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg, all the way live from Jerusalem. Rabbi, how's it going there? We've been hearing of some rockets going on in Israel. I heard it was between 400 and 500 rockets. How's it going over there?
Yes, hi, good evening. Good evening from Israel. Yes, we had something like 400 rockets. Unfortunately, we are dealing with people from the Hamas who decided that they need to destroy Israel and to kill all the Jews. But as we all know, God is with us. So
Yes.
We are strong and we are here and everything is good. And hopefully, thank God, also we didn't have any damage or too much damage. It was a minority. And we will continue on with our mission.
Excellent.
Building up
You're
in this world.
still. I know you gave us this link to Jerusalem Journey. We've got it posted at the bottom of the broadcast. If anybody's interested, Rabbi Chaim is got an offer. If anybody still wants to go on a tour to Jerusalem, feel free to contact myself. Maybe we can go as a group. But if you want to go on your own, you can check on that link. Look at a possible 9-day tour or even longer. With Jerusalem Journey on his website, BibleVerseOfToday.com. So that's available to you. But back to the Kuzari. I think last week's lesson was great, and it's gaining momentum. And I think today we got some real exciting stuff having to do with science and the laws of nature and how Hashem rules it all.
Yes, yes, indeed. So first of all, basically everybody is invited to Jerusalem, and I can also puzzle up whatever things that you want to see, not only in Jerusalem but in all the country. And this is one issue. But let's dive inside to the Kuzari now. We are in a very interesting stage because the Kuzari is coming to prove that the Hebrew nation, that the Jewish nation, and the Torah and the tradition that we are holding is the truth one. Until now, we just only laid down all sorts of foundations,
Yes.
and we didn't really got to the answer. I'm not sure that we will manage tonight to finalize all the foundation that we laid it down. It might be that we will need another few minutes from the next lesson, but we are almost at the end of the foundation that we laid down till today. And if I remember, the basic or the most important thing that we try to do till today is to start in putting inside our mind the possibility of beginning of everything. The beginning of, for example, the beginning of the languages at all, the beginning of the world with the issue of the week, for example, that all of the world is accepting that there are only 7 days a week and not 10 days like everything else that we have in the calculation. And all of the world is accepting that we have Sunday and Monday, and we're not debating what's day. And this is also showing those issues of the beginning. And those are the things that we started to speak about. And today we want to dive a bit deeper inside. Yes.
Awesome. Sounds exciting. I think we're running into a little bit of a streaming problem this morning, and I don't know why. But we're definitely recording, Rabbi, so I'm not sure what the issue is at the moment. Shall we continue, or do you want to restart? Or we can continue. I'm recording perfectly. Can you see it online?
From my side, I can see it online, and everything is running good, even though we have from here and there all sorts of, as you said, a few hiccups. I will call it.
Yeah, the chat box is not. It seems to have glitched, and I don't know why. So forgive me on the chat box today. Yeah, okay. So take it away. Do you want to restart with verse 62, or did you got a few more things you want to say?
No. Let's start with verse 62. I will say that the introduction or the things that we're going to speak today,
Right.
before we're going to show how much or the logic of the Hebrew nation and why we say that we have a truth inside ourselves, or that our heritage is a truth one. We're going to deal today with two main issues. So let's start with the first one. The first one is the issue of the philosophers, the old philosophers. And from there on, it's going also to the scientific world. And let's start and read the number 62. Yes, let's go on.
Okay, we did 62 last week, but we'll go on. Kuzari starting. Well, if I had supported my arguments by reference to a Negro people, i.e. a people not united upon a common law, the answer would have been correct. Now, what is the opinion of the philosophers who, as the result of their careful researches, agree that the world is without beginning? And here it does not concern tens of thousands and not millions, but unlimited numbers of years. I find that this was quite the Greek philosophy back in the day. Everybody thought the universe or the world was infinite, always existed, right?
Right, exactly. And this is, again, the main problem till today, and that what we also spoke between ourselves in all of the last 4 sessions is against this idea that this world was always. We need to start to think also that maybe it started one day. Now today, I must say that the scientific world is speaking about this, that something like 14, not million, billions years ago, everything started with a big spark. But it's only in the last 100 years. Before that, everybody said in the scientific world that everything was always, and nobody really started everything. The truth is that this question that the Kuzari is laying down, the Rabbi Judah HaLevi is laying down on the table, is a very interesting one, because asking, there is a hidden assumption in those words that you read now. The hidden assumption is that there are very smart people, and they are all of them also did a lot of researches.
Right.
Now, I don't know exactly what they're saying, but they're very smart, so I need to accept what they're saying. And it's also today with the scientific world. I don't know exactly what everybody is saying, but they are very smart people, so of course they're saying the truth. And this is, I will say, the hidden assumption of those words. And only to understand this, we need to remember, I will say it like that all of those smart people, it's also starting with people who are investigating and asking questions.
Right, for sure.
And doing a lot of research, researches.
Yes.
And it doesn't say that we can't learn and understand what they are saying. Okay, so don't just say, I will say it in a sarcasm, a bit of sarcasm,
Sure.
People, instead of believing in God, they believe in the scientific people.
Right. And I think it gets exciting coming up here, and where that originates from. So this is, Shall I read 63?
Yes, let's go on.
Okay, so addressing the unlimited number of year question, the rabbi says there is an excuse for the philosophers. Being Grecians, science and religion did not come to them as inheritances. They belong to the descendants of Japheth, who inhabited the north, whilst that knowledge coming from Adam and supported by the divine influence is only to be found among the progeny of Shem, who represented the successors of Noah and constituted, as it were, his essence. This knowledge has always been connected with this essence and will always remain so. The Greeks only received it when they became powerful from Persia. The Persians had it from the Chaldeans. It was only then that the famous Greek philosopher arose, but as soon as Rome assumed political leadership, they produced no philosopher worthy of name. And Al-Kuzari says, does that mean that Aristotle's philosophy is not deserving of credence?
Okay, before we will continue on, let's understand first of all what he answered and
Yes.
what is again inside this those words. Okay, the answer that he is giving, we need to understand it, I think, in a deep way. Okay, because he's answering not from the question. The question was, those are very smart, investigated everything. Therefore, we need to accept. And instead of that, he is starting to answer that it's not something very inside with them. They just got it, or they just stole it from the old Persian nation.
Ideas.
But again, it doesn't say anything. Maybe they are very smart, and we need to listen to them, even though they took it from somebody else. So first of all, what he's answering, that it's I will say it like that: if everybody in the world or in the philosophical world, they believe that the most important person in the world is a philosopher one. Mm-hmm. But this can be, this I will say, thought can be if the philosopher, I will say the philosopher believe that the most important person in the world is a philosopher person. But the philosophy time started in a time in the history.
That's right.
It wasn't before that. And after some certain time of 600, 700 years, it stopped also. And it moved away from the Greece. So it's not the most hardcore of a human person.
Right.
It's something very important. Gave a very good, very brilliant essence to the world. But side of the world, if it was the most important side of the world, it was supposed to start from the beginning of the days of any person in this world, any human being.
Right.
Until today, we will have a lot of philosophers, but we say in our eyes that it started in some time of the history.
Right.
Okay, and it also ended. So it's not the most important thing in the world.
I know.
And this is.
It's almost like people today want to go back to things the way they were incorrectly sometimes. I know that a lot of people lean towards academic understanding as the total guide for life, when in reality, if it's not meshing. But I know a lot more is meshing today, leaning towards the Torah position. I mean, as opposed to before the philosophers, before that time, the most of the world was still tied up in an astrological mindset, which the Hebrew people were still unique, linked to Hashem, with the links all the way back to Adam, but the rest of the world was going astray with astrological sense. So the philosophers did bring a degree of growth in understanding, but it's limited. I think what he's saying here is that it's solely in the mind, right?
Right, exactly. And opposing to that is the Hebrew nation, that it's starting from Adam, from the first, we said it already, it's the first man that have a moral conscience.
Yeah.
And the moral conscience and the divine influence. And since then, we have an heritage with us,
yes,
that is going since then till today.
Yes.
And this is something much different. Another here is another point is that the issue of stealing, I will say it like that, stealing the knowledge. And
Right.
what is the meaning of that? Of this? If you will go, for example, and you will investigate, you will send a delegation to investigate, I will say the yeshivot, the learning structure of the Hebrew nation. Okay,
Right.
And you will put a delegation there for a year, and they will go back to their university and will do all and they will bring a book, a very thick book with something like 600 pages.
Wow.
What exactly is happening in this environment of the yeshiva, the studies where the Hebrew nation is learning.
Right.
They won't be able ever to copy, okay, what exactly is happening there, like the people who was born into this environment,
Right.
okay,
Right.
and passing it from one generation to another generation. And this is what happened to the Greece, the old Greece nation.
Right.
They went to another place and they stole from there a lot of ideas.
Right.
But still, it's not something, they also organized it with their inheritance. And it's not,
Classified,
they
yes.
can't really explain or to be very exact like the real, I will say, thoughts of the original. And this is also what he's saying. They just took it from the Persians,
Right.
and after they finished to be a very big and huge community, they also lost it. We don't know today that the Greece are the most smart nation in the
course.
world.
Well, even last week,
So,
when you brought up about the Exodus, Moses coming out of Egypt, how smart the Egyptians were, how some of their wise people were, they weren't pushovers. They didn't just hear exactly what Moses had to say. They wanted, they wanted some form of evidence. And then you had the 10 plagues, which really spoke to them in a unique way as well. But the Greeks had their own twist, but it was still borrowed, the train of thinking. Okay, I see where you're going. Yeah.
okay, and this is exactly what he is answering here. He's saying two things. First of all, it's only a small time of the history of the world that there was all those philosophers.
Right.
And the second thing is that they took it from other places. Okay, they took it from another place. Therefore, it's not something very. It's not the original thoughts and everything else. And this is why it's not that we don't need to investigate or to understand. And he will go up another. In a few minutes, he will say one of the most interesting things, that one of the most hard questions that we have today. We have four questions that Immanuel Kant already said.
Right.
That we can't decide with our brain what side is the right one. One of the things that Immanuel Kant mentioned was the issue of this world was created or this world was always been.
Yeah.
And this is something else that is going. It is something else that is going to speak another few moments. But before that, I prefer that you will read number 64. It's a small sentence, but it's a very important one.
64, Al-Kuzari said, does this mean that Aristotle's philosophy is not deserving of credence?
Okay, now here in English it's okay, but in the Hebrew is that we don't need to believe in the Aristotle philosophy. Now he is using in the Hebrew version, he is using the word belief with the issue of philosopher. The philosopher always is thinking, and suddenly he's speaking, let's believe to these people. Okay? And this is what I said before. You can believe, because there are questions, and he's going to explain this in a few words, in a few moments, because there are questions that we don't have an answer in our mind.
Right.
So we need to decide what we believe on.
That's right.
And this is what he's saying here. We don't need to believe Aristotle because he stole the wisdom from somebody else. Still, he was a very, very brilliant man. And I must say, Aristotle and also his rabbi, Plato, and all of those people, they were very smart in a lot of the things of our today. I will say it like that, the mathematics that we have today. And with this mathematics, we managed to be...
a whole bunch of them.
Okay, and with this mathematics, we managed to do those computers that we can speak today from all over the world. So they really laid down a lot of smart things to this world. But it doesn't say that everything that they said, we need to say, they are right. No, there are things that we need to decide or to think what we're saying. So here's what he's answering in 65.
65, the rabbi says, certainly he exerted his mind, talking about Aristotle, because he had no tradition from any reliable source at his disposal. He meditated on the beginning and end of the world, but found as much difficulty in the theory of a beginning as in that of eternity. Finally, these abstract speculations which made for eternity prevailed, and he found no reason to inquire into the chronology or derivation of those who lived before him. He had lived among a people with well-authenticated and generally acknowledged traditions. He would have applied his deductions and arguments to establish the theory of creation, however difficult, instead of eternity, which is even much more difficult to accept. And yeah, this is a big question. Yeah.
Okay, so as I said, as you can see here also, and I said it before, today it's very easy because Immanuel Kant said that there are 4 antinomies of the logical thoughts, okay? And it's important for me to mention 2 of them. The first one is the question, is the world was created or the world was always here? Right. And he's explaining logically that you can't force any path, because everything that you will say for to understand one way, you can question this, and if you will say the other way, you can question the other way also. So you can't decide logically what path is the right one, and also this is what he is saying here. Another thing that Aristotle is saying, that there is the question if we do have free will or free choice of doing things, or we are all the time connected to a chain of things that because of that we decided those things or other things. This is also one of the things that we can't decide in our mind. And let's put this aside, I will explain this later on today. But we know that the Kuzari, Rabbi Judah HaLevi, he already was something like 450 years before Immanuel Kant. And Aristotle was also something like 2,500 years ago. And also Aristotle said that you can't really force any side of those questions. And therefore, he decided to go on the logic that the world was always here. But you can't force this this thing. It's not a proof, it's a speculation.
Always
he preferred this side and the other side, and this is it. And this is what he's asking Al Kuzari in 66. Is there any decisive proof? Okay, something that you can prove or can't prove. And this is one of the most important sentences that he's going to say in 67. Please.
Okay.
Read the first sentence.
Yeah, Al Kuzari asked, is there any decisive proof, for one way or another? And the rabbi says, where could we find one for such a question? He says, now, today we have the Big Bang. We have established physics, and we have established science that does lean towards the confirmation of a beginning for tangible, creation, a beginning. So we know that today. But back then he's saying, where could we find one for such? Heaven forbid that there should be anything in the Bible to contradict that which is manifest or proved. I find that amazing that he would...
Just a moment. This sentence, heaven forbidden, okay?
Heaven forbid that there should be anything in the Bible to contradict that which is manifest or proved. And I find, since I've met you, that this notion has really broadened in my eyes that, wait a second, it's written in such a way, it's passed down in such a way, it's even shared today in such a way that it is in such a manner that it's not going to contradict things that are manifest or proved. And I find the way the Jewish nation protects it, guards it, shares it lovingly, but they do it in a manner that is not ever going to contradict science. And I don't think enough people grasp how profound that is. I mean, it's just we live, especially here in the West, in a mindset that the world and the universe and everything's a buffet, and we get to pick whatever notions we want. And I think that's what Rabbi Judah HaLevi is doing here, is really saying, wait a second, boom, you bring up this argument of eternity versus a beginning. Hey, Aristotle had a notion, we've been saying all along, and now hundreds, 800, 700, 800 years later, we know it's firm. So it's just amazing. Yeah.
I agree with everybody. I don't think that I can say it even better than you, but it's one of the most important sentences that did a very big impact on me when I started to investigate all this issue of the. I was born in a Jewish family, and my grandfather was a rabbi, and my great-grandfather was a rabbi. It's true, but I wasn't born as a rabbi. I wasn't born with a beard, and I wasn't. I was supposed also to find my way. And this is one of the sentences that really knocked me down. There will be never something in the Torah, ideology that will be predict with the issue of
something provable.
The scientific something provable, and it can't be. The other way is always we can find a lot of things that was written down already 2,000 years ago, and today people are saying, it's true. For example, I will give an example that today we all know that when a woman getting pregnant,
yes,
it's taking her 40 days
right,
until the person inside her stomach, inside her womb, is suddenly we can see everything. We can see what is legs, what is hands, what is the heart, and everything else.
Yeah.
Now this issue that after 40 days we can see exactly everything, but in the first 40 days we can't still yet see everything. Today with the ultrasound that we have in the world, we all know that this is the truth, but it's already written down in the Babylon Talmud 2,000 years ago. Okay,
amazing.
And again, those are amazing things, because until something like 40 years ago, nobody really knew before the birth if it will be a boy or a girl.
Yes.
Only in the last 40 years we started to show that we can see with the ultrasound if it's a boy or a girl. But that the rabbis or the Hebrew tradition already said that in the first 40 days, it's still not something alive or something that we can define everything. Only after 40 days we can define it. And suddenly today with the scientific world, we see that. And this is only one example. I can give you something like 10 or 7 examples. Lots more. But again, the most important sentence is, heaven forbidden that there should be anything in the Bible to contradict that which is manifest or proved.
Yeah.
It won't happen. And we need to understand the question of the beginning of the world or not. It's nothing that was proved, not to this side, to this other side. And as you mentioned, after so many years, suddenly the scientific world is starting to speak.
Yeah.
The world was started from the Big Bang.
Amazing. I know when I did my research for my film Fingerprints of the Flood, and the evidence keeps mounting more and more and more and more in favor of the model I used. But even I've been listening to another rabbi there in Israel, hearing more about deep things in their historical literature that confirm, cracking and breaking up of the continents. All I can say is I get more excited to see that those things which are manifest and can be proved align. When they align with the Torah, and we're seeing more and more and more of that every day. It's exciting to see. So I'll continue on. On the other hand,
yes,
the Bible. On the other hand, it tells of miracles and the changes of ordinary things newly arising or changing one into the other. This proves that the Creator of the world is able to accomplish what He will and whenever He will. The question of eternity and creation is obscure, whilst the arguments are evenly balanced. The theory of creation derives greater weight from the prophetic tradition of Adam, Noah, and Moses, which is more deserving of credence than mere speculation. If, after all, a believer in the law finds himself compelled to admit an eternal matter and the existence of many worlds prior to this one, this would not impair his belief that this world was created at a certain epoch and that Adam and Noah were the first human beings. So I see where he's going with his logic to bring that back around to the points you've been talking about.
Yes, exactly. But I want to also to go another level deeper inside. One of the things that in my site is to explain a bit the Bible. So I must say I will want to take the sixth day of the creation and the seventh day of the creation. I want to explain this a bit because he says here the issue of how much. I will say it like that. The most why did the philosopher decided or wanted or went to the side that the world was already all the time existed? This is because they looked around and they saw that there are no miracles, and therefore it is hard to say that it started from something. It was always like that.
Yeah.
But this is something very interesting. Let's take as an example. Okay, it's an example that the Maimonides is bringing up. Let's take for an example that someone with his son went to a cruise, okay, and their boat got lost in the water.
Right.
And those two, the father and the son, managed to survive in an island by themselves. Now, in this island, it's a small island, there are no animals. The son was very young in those days. He was 4 years old or 5 years old. And after the son started to grow up, the son asked his father from where people are coming. You told me that there are a lot of people in this world. And the father is answering him, male and female are getting together, and in the womb, something is growing up, and then you're going out from a womb of your mother. The son would look at him and say to him, Father, you're a bit crazy. You tell me something very strange. I think maybe that man, is coming to us by his. Maybe a bird is bringing you one, or maybe it's inside some sort of. Why do you say that in the body of a woman somebody will grow up? What is a woman? Or how come? And we need to agree that the starting point of everything is sometimes a bit different than what's happening after it started. Okay, and I will give another example of this point. Let's say you had an elections. No, not you in Canada. Okay, the United States. They had an elections. They had an elections. Okay, and the election is to the mid-term elections. Now let's go back. 4 years ago, and 8 years ago, and 12 years ago, and let's go back. Go back, and let's go to the first one that they did those elections. Okay.
Sure, George Washington.
Now, what we will say, yes. Now, what we're going to say, 4 years before the first one. Okay. How did they did the first elections? It wasn't by the law, and it was different way of doing the first elections.
Sure.
So the beginning point, a lot of times, is different than what's happening after that. Now, the philosophers said all the time that because we see today in our lives that we don't have any miracles, therefore, it was always like that. Who said? The beginning point is supposed to be different sometimes, With everything, the beginning point is different. And suddenly, for this issue of the world, you're saying that everything was always like that and that's it. And this is why he's speaking here about the issue of the miracles. But I will go another step even deeper inside, if you agree with me, and I have the time for that. Yeah, I have the permission to go.
Of course.
With this. We are differentiating between the first 6 days and the seventh day. Okay? Right. In the first 6 days, God interfered everything and he created everything. So he did a lot of miracles. Everything jumped there, In the first day, he created the lights and the darkness.
Right.
In the second day, he did other things. In the fifth day, okay, let's go to the fifth day. He created the animals. He created the fish. Yeah. He created a lot of things. In the sixth day, he created a human being. So every time like that, in the first 6 days, we can say that God, with his interference in the nature, he did a lot of miracles inside. Okay? Now, in the seventh day, God decided to sit silent, I will say, to sit down aside and not to do anything. So today, when you're looking at the world, you're saying to yourself, there are not any miracles, because God is sitting silent. But there was also a time that there were miracles when he created this world. And from time to time also, he interfered in this world and did miracles like we saw in Egypt. Okay? So there are times that he is doing miracles. That today he is not doing any miracles, and I will explain in a moment why, doesn't say that he doesn't have the ability to do miracles. Now, why doesn't he is doing? Why he's not doing miracles?
Well, I think there's so much miraculous things going on, but like the person on the island who has no frame of reference, we today have our eyes shut to the wonders of what is really going on. And I think if people get attuned, they can begin to see that there is such miraculous things going on all around us and daily. And I'm not trying to stretch the imagination, but the point being, there's so many events that go on that communicate to us in ways that are living if people will just lend their ear and open their eyes. So, yeah, perspective. I think our perspective is sometimes so scaled, covered with a veil that, we need to, tune our ears and listen and actually learn to be thankful and grateful. It makes such a major difference as far as how you view everything going on in the world and the signs of the times. So,
yes, it's true. This is true. especially the most biggest thing that happened in the last 100 years, except for the big wars and the United States put on there in Japan.
Right.
Hebrew nation after 2,000 years came back to their homeland.
That's a miracle.
As the prophet said, 2,000 years. This is the most powerful thing, and this is also why so many people are bothering this issue of the Israel nation.
Right.
Some are with the Israel nation, and some are very against, because this is something like an interference of God in this world. That suddenly he's speaking with us, and people are some of them upset, and some of them are very happy. Right. But why God? But from the other side, why God is not showing himself very straight like he did in Egypt time?
Plain.
Because if he will do that, we will lose our free choice.
Of course.
If everybody will see in God, then we won't have the free choice. Therefore, God has to cover himself a bit, to go one step back, to send out all sorts of hints. Yes. Because if you want, it's like the sun and the moon. Okay, you can't see the moon at daytime.
Right.
Why? Because the light of the sun is covering, that you won't see the moon. At night you can see the moon. And if God will be here, it's like the sun in front of us.
Right.
And when the sun is so shiny, we can't see not the moon and not the stars. They are there, but you can't see them.
I know.
And again,
Rabbi, so many people though today, there's so much more going on, and they just don't want to see it. And like you mentioned, the Hebrew nation, that is one of the biggest miracles, that after 2,000 years they're coming back to their homeland, but people want to look at it in the wrong light, and they're looking at it incorrectly, rather than being excited and embracing the great things that Almighty God Hashem is doing. People are looking at it incorrectly, and you've got confusion, sure, and you've got indecision and hesitation, and then you've got collision. And I think the brightness of Hashem will shine, as the waters cover the sea, so the whole earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of Hashem, for sure.
It's true, and this is also, if I'm going back to the Kuzari book. First of all, I agree with every word of you. I'm saying, this is something that the Kuzari is trying to explain to us. In the Hebrew tradition, we saying that there are two, I will say, sides of the God in this world.
Right. From
time to time, He knows. In the creation time, it was the starting point was different, and in the creation time, we saw that He's involved with this creation and creating everything. And when man is coming inside this world, 6th day, so God is going one step back
Right.
So man will have a free choice and will manage to see also to let himself to be confused, I will say it like that. And then he have also free choice.
Right.
And it doesn't say that God can't do miracles. And it's true that the most of the time God is not doing miracles. It's okay. This is his way to guidance this
Right.
world. And this is also why he put this Hebrew nation inside, that there will be some sort of people that
Yes.
among them all the time he is connecting them and he is speaking with them. So those are I would say, the issue of the scientific world regarding the Hebrew nation. If I will conclude it in a few sentences. So sentence number one is we need to remember that we are never in the Hebrew tradition, we are never against something that was proven
That's
scientific.
Right. God forbid.
This
Heaven
is
forbid.
the point. Yes, heaven forbid it. It's true, this is what he's saying. On the other side, we need also to take this, I will say, scientific world and to remember that those are human beings with a lot of thoughts. Some are things they can prove, some of the things they're just assumptions, speculation,
Opinion.
and you need to try to find, for example, okay, the Darwin thoughts of today, okay, of that the man came from the monkey and everything else. And there's an excellent museum in the South Africa. I'm urging everybody to see this museum there. But again, it's also speculation. Nobody said that this is exactly, he have one of the most hard things in his speculation, in his thoughts, is how exactly the eye that we have, that we see today, happened to be created from this way. Because the eye is the different thing from everything else, different complex. And he's saying this in his book, So maybe we will find a scientific way to explain this issue of the eye. Maybe we won't find, and it's okay. And we will have another 200 years altogether different ideas what exactly happened. So there are things that are speculation and all sorts of thoughts and all sorts of imagination. Everything is okay. Things that was proven, it's excellent. Now the most important side is to be with, from one side, a lot of dignity to the science and to listen and to try to understand everything.
Sure.
From the other side, to remember and to differentiate between the speculation, imagination, everything else, and
Rabbi,
the truth, all other things.
I find my mind, especially the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years, I lean more to probabilities, conditional probability math. What is the degree of probability of something being correct? There are, when you talk about the evolution question, the probabilities increase as evidence gets found, but it doesn't mean it's 100% sure certain thing. I find that all probability is leaning and pointing towards the correctness of Torah. And I find that if people, differentiate between what's an opinion, what's just an idea, and look at it even through conditional probability math. What is probable? But more than just being probable as in the sense of math, hear what the rabbis have to say, hear what the Israeli nation has to say, and you'll find that, heaven forbid, nothing manifest or truly proved will ever contradict it. So see where they're coming from, folks. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful notion. So shall we go on with 68, Rabbi?
Yes, we need to know that we're going now to another issue. Okay, another issue. This is the last foundation before we are going to explain before we're going to explain why we're saying that this I will say traditional, this is the right one or correct one.
Right.
And before we go into that, the last thing that we need to speak about is it possible to speak about prophecy? Okay, prophecy basically is that God, the Almighty, the one who created this world, who is outside from this world, he built up this world, is speaking with this small, tiny, bitty creature that we call human being.
Right.
Is God can speak with him? Or does he have any connection with him? And this is what we're going to speak from now, from 68 to a long period. But this is the last foundation. that we're going to speak about the issue that there is prophecy, and we're going to explain it in a very interesting way. And then we can answer to explain why we're saying that the Hebrew tradition is the right one. So let's go on. Let's go inside to 68.
All right. So Al-Kuzari says to the rabbi, he says, thus far, I find these arguments quite satisfactory. Should we continue our conversation? I will trouble you to adduce more decisive proofs. Now take up the thread of thy earlier exposition, how the great conviction settled in thy soul that the creator of body and spirit, soul, intellect, and angels, he who is too high, holy, and exalted for the mind, still less for the senses to grasp, that he holds intercourse with creatures made of low and contemptible material. Wonderful as this may seem, for the smallest worm shows the wonders of his wisdom in a manner beyond the human mind. 69?
Okay, so the question is, yes, this is what exactly I explained the question. Okay, so let's go on, 69.
69, the rabbi says, well, thou hast forestalled much of my intended answer to you. Dost thou ascribe the wisdom apparent in the creation of an ant, for example, to a sphere or a star, or to any other object, to the exclusion of the Almighty Creator, who weighs and gives everything its due, giving neither too much nor too little? And then Al-Kuzari in 70 says, oh, you want me to stop?
No, Say this. Say number 7.
Says this is ascribed to the action of nature.
Okay, so we are going now to some sort of I will say, a side issue. We're going to go inside to this issue of nature, but as first of all, we need to remember that even though the human being and the body of the human being, it's something, one of the most amazing. You know what? I must. Let's open a breakfast, okay? Something I must say. A person, every human being here is from one side very like a nature, okay? The body side is like a nature. Yeah. And from the other side, you have a spiritual side that have this free choice, and this is something that is outside the nature, okay? So we have something like a miracle side and a nature side, okay? The person, every human being, is an amazing body. This body is really an amazing body.
Sure.
And if we will start to speak about this body, we can start and we can end another, few days, even maybe a few months. And we all know that to learn to be a medicine, somebody that is repairing people, to be a doctor, you need to learn something like 7 years or even more than that.
10,
so it is amazing thing, but also a worm, okay, as he said, and if it ends,
amazing.
It's also amazing. Sure. So the Amoebas. Issue of
single cell
exactly.
Animals.
So
there's so much amazing in nature. I guess the point is, does nature just flow on its own? Is it got no source, or does it have momentum on its own, and does it just exist unchecked and do what it will? Yeah, so I'm sorry for interrupting.
Exactly. No, it's okay. But the first thing is to understand that if you're asking, I will say, the Almighty, okay, if you're asking God who created this world, from his perspective, there isn't any difference between any human being and any ant or any elephant. It doesn't matter. Those sizes are not a difference for him.
That's right.
And this is the first sentence that he's done. Now let's go inside to this issue of the nature, okay? Because and one of the most hard things I think that he's asking here. Okay, let's go. Let's read a bit.
Al-Kuzari said, this is ascribed to the action of nature, and the rabbi says to him in 71, what is nature? And Al-Kuzari in 72, he says, as far as philosophy teaches, it is a certain power, only we do not know what it really is. No doubt philosophers know. And the rabbi says,
look again, that's something that we don't really know what it is. Again, we're speaking about something that it's not really precise and it's not defined, and we have all sorts of explanation, but we don't really know what exactly it is. Okay, let's go on.
In 73, hold on, let me just correct that. In 73, the rabbi says, well, they know as much as we do. Aristotle 13 defined it as the beginning and primary cause through which a thing either moves or rests, not by accidents, but on account of its innate essence.
Okay, some sort of energy that is moving because this is, I will say, the essence of this energy. For example, if you will take a stone or an apple and you will hold it, it will go back to the world. If you will take a flame, the world is, I will say, the source of every stone. So the stone wants to go back to its source. If you will take a flame, a fire, it will go up. Why it will go up? Because it's going also to its source. The source is the sun. So it's going out to the source. So everything is going back to the source, but we don't know exactly to explain why it's going like that or why everything is working like it's working. And this is what is answering him in 74, in where we came.
Al-Kuzari says, in 74, Al-Kuzari says, well, this would mean that the thing which moves or rests on its own accord has a cause through which it moves or rests. This cause is nature. And so the rabbi, he's discussing what nature is. The rabbi says, well, this opinion is the result of diligent research, criticism, and discrimination between accidental and natural occurrences. These things astonish those who hear them, but nothing else springs from the knowledge of nature. I mean, people just imagine it like pinballs or like pool balls, billiard balls colliding and just bouncing around as if it's all so random.
And it's something, and it's something that they can't really explain what exactly is happening here, or why is, I will say, the first reason of everything, where it started, what exactly started, and what exactly started to move everything aside. But they don't really, they're not answering this question, this main question. So it's something like, to say a word, but let's try to peel it down like an onion from one stage to another stage. Then we suddenly understand that not everything is understandable. I will say it like that. Okay, let's go on.
Al-Kuzari says in 76, he says, all I can see is that they have misled us by these names and caused us to place another being on par with God. If we say that nature is wise and active, speaking in their sense, we might even say possessed of intelligence.
I think that those words are very hard words, okay?
Yeah.
Because if you will say that the nature is the God and creating everything,
right?
So you're moving from believing, I will say, that there is an external God,
right?
And you're saying that there is an internal God, because at the end of the days, nobody can explain what is really starting. But the truth is that nature doesn't have any will, any wish. It's like, if you want, you will never prize, okay, the sun for heating us. Because the sun is doing, I will say, it's not thinking. It's not something thinkable.
That's right.
There is I will say,
the quality,
some sort of a story. Some sort of a story.
The sun is just hot. We happen to be at a certain distance from it, so we get that, what they call that life zone. We happen to be in, but if the Earth was closer, of course, we wouldn't be in an habitable zone. If it's too far, it's too cold. We it's just doing what it's doing. It does not mean that it has action, will, like you're saying, right?
Exactly. And it's like someone who is going up to the most highest tower, okay, in the world, and he decides to commit suicide with himself. So he's jumping towards the earth, and on the way down, he's regretting his thoughts. So he's going to the earth, and he's saying to the earth, please do me a favor. I don't want to get killed. I will never do this again. And he's asking from the gravitation force to stop is taking him down to the ground. So the gravitation will answer him, you know what, you're right, you will never do this again anymore.
I just,
because the gravitation, you can't speak with the gravitation, you can't speak with the world, you can't speak with the nature.
Yeah.
You can't speak with him. With God, you can speak. And this is a very important difference. So this is what he's putting inside, he's laying down inside that there is something different when you're speaking about God or you're speaking about the nature. The nature is very important, but the nature is not creating, the nature is not building things. The nature is just working precisely as it is. I must say here a personal story, okay? Something like 25 years ago, I had an interesting conversation with one of the most important professors in Israel who did all the IVH, I think this is how it's called in English, that they're taking the seed from the man and the seed from the woman, and they're doing outside the body all this
cloning. Or
cloning
genetic,
of the
test tube genetics?
Yes, all of those things, yes. But those two things that they're doing. And he told me like that. He told me, if you will take 100 males, that they are excellent, everything in the body is working correctly, and you will take 100 females, and they will do a sexual interaction, only 20% is going to catch one with each other, and it will be a human being, and the last 80% won't happen. And he said to me, I'm an atheist, but I'm sure there is something else involved here.
Right.
Okay? And this is basically what he's saying here. The nature is working like it's not hearing and not seeing and not anything. It's like saying 1 and 1 is equal to 2. That's it. It doesn't matter in what language you're speaking, but it doesn't thinking anything. This is the nature. God is something else. God is something who decided with his will to create everything. And this is what we are speaking with. And this is where the philosophers a bit, I would say, mislead us by those names of nature and everything else.
Ascribing to nature almost, a human-like emotion or human-like, that's incorrect for sure. Well, in verse 77, the rabbi begins to clarify.
Yes.
He says, certainly, but the elements, the moon, the sun, and the stars have powers such as warming, yes, cooling, moistening, drying, etc., but do not merit that wisdom should be ascribed to them or be reckoned more than a function, forming, measuring, producing, however, and all that shows an intention can only be ascribed to the all-wise and almighty. There is no harm in calling the power which arranges matter by means of heat and cooling nature, but all intelligence must be denied it. So must the faculty of creating the embryo be denied to human beings because they only aid the matter in receiving human form from its wise creator. Thou must not deem it improbable that exalted divine traces should be visible in this material world when this matter is prepared to receive them. Here are to be found the roots of faith as well as unbelief. Now, this is where the whole Kuzari starts to get, when he's talking about heating and cooling, it's just, amazing. I mean, this is dealing with some of, we can't ascribe, ascribe to them. Go on.
You can. I want to say except for the words that you said, and they're very hard words, and that you can't describe for them any intention, any will, but there are two things that he's saying here in the end of those sentences. The first one is that in one of the thus must not be inimportable that what divine tracks should be visible in this material world. What he's saying here is something very interesting. He's setting, I will say, a bomb inside to this room. He's setting something amazing. Take, for example, and you're doing a party in your place, in your home. Okay, you're doing a party. One night you're doing a party. Now, in the day after that, it finished out at 2 o'clock in the morning and everybody went home and you cleaned a bit, but that's it. The day after that, if someone will, they will see, I will say, some sort of evidence that there was a party here yesterday.
Right.
Okay? They will see the evidence.
Sure.
And this is what you said before. There are things that happening here in this world that people just need to open their eyes and open their ears, and they will see the evidence of God's existence in this world. For example, the issue of each person that is getting birth and starting to live here. Because each person, we are so regular to this issue, so we don't see that how much it's amazing. Because the issue of every person here is, from one side, his body is like the part of the nature. You can't play with this. Go to the hospital nearby your place. Everybody can go to the hospital nearby his place and see the body functioning is in the nature side. You can give this, everything that is getting broken or getting organized or everything else, it's the body functioning is like in the nature side. But there is also another side in us as human beings. And this is the issue of the free will. And this is the issue of the soul that we have. That we have some sort of plurality inside. And this is something that it's like God did a very big party in his place. He left here, okay, in this world. He left, and he left of
evidence, trails, traces,
breadcrumbs. Things, evidence, trails, exactly, that he left here. And this is what he says here. There are a lot of traces, Rabbi, that God is existed here.
My mind is so blown away that he says there is no harm in calling the power which arranges matter by means of heat and cooling nature. He says, the point being, this was written in 1140, and it wasn't until the late 1700s or mid 1600s that science adopted what is now called the laws of thermodynamics. Thermodynamics has to do with heating and cooling and motion with heat and cooling. For him to write this 700 years in advance, 650 years in advance, shows an understanding that it's beyond the time. Now, I think what you're trying to get across clearly is that, just because something heat and cools and that begins to cause motion in our universe, right? That part of nature is not all that's going on. That's not all that's going on. Hashem is doing much more behind the scenes, and for science to come up with the law of thermodynamics, and 700 years earlier we're getting it explained 700 years before, it makes me wonder how much more even going back. Please, shall we continue with 78?
No, not.
I just find out the response. How is this possible? Because it's really ahead of its time. Yes, go on.
No, but there's also another thing that he is saying, that those I will say divine tracks that he is putting inside here could be the found of roots of faith or of unbelief. And this is something that is very, shocking for the Kuzari. How come this exactly thing could be the faith or the unbelief?
That's right. One or the other.
Kuzari, and here the rabbi is going inside to something that I think that we need to leave this for the next time, and then we'll finalize with this issue. I just want to finalize another thing, another important point from something that we spoke earlier tonight. We said, and now I can explain this much, I will say it like that, in a much more profound way. Before we said that the question of if the world was existed before or always, or the world was, or the world was created, it's something that in our mind we can't decide. Another thing that we said, that if we do have a free choice or we don't have a free choice, it's something that we can't decide with our minds. Now, after we finish those sentences of the Kuzari, I want to state, I will say it like that. When you decide to take the option that the world was created and there was a creator who decided to create this world and nobody forced him to do that, and he did this for giving good to others, this is where you're taking the step, okay? You're taking the step that everything here is all the time can rebuild itself, like a God who created this world. Because I have all the time also connection with God, and also my free will is something that is getting connected or getting the power of free will from God, who have
for a purpose.
All the free will to decide what to do. So those two issues are a bit connected. Most, I will say, profound things. If you say that the world was always here,
right?
So you're very pessimistic that everything is like it was, to get death, that as we can see. But when you understand, or when you're taking upon yourself the first turning point, I will say, the first side that you're deciding that the world was created, therefore there is a creation here, and you can rebuild yourself, you can recreate yourself, you can do everything because you're all the time connected with him. And also you really have a free will, and everything will repair itself back. And this is a very important, I will say, starting point of your free choice, your free will. You can force you to decide in what stage are you taking, or what stage in your life you're deciding.
Wow, amazing. I think people need to, begin to use that ability of theirs, that gift that they have in this life, and use it to make decisions that flow with nature to a degree, but also testify to the greatness of the Creator himself. So
exactly,
amazing.
And we are staying with the question, okay, how come those divine tracks in our world are basically the found of roots, or the roots of faith and well as unbelief together? And this is something that will continue on next coming Sunday.
So are we going to aim for this Sunday, or what do you think?
This week on Sunday, I can do it on Sunday.
Your call. How about we discuss it and then I'll post it?
Okay, fair enough. We'll decide it. We'll decide it after that. So again, I'm inviting everybody to come to Israel and to see Israel in all sorts of ways and everything else, and a lot of blessing from Jerusalem to everybody in this in our world, and to all those who are listening to us and listening to us also after that. And see you all here in Israel. Bye.
Awesome. Have a great day, folks.